Hey you guys, it's Moonlander back with another horror on Netflix review, and today we're going to be looking at the movie called The Devil's Dolls.
Have you ever heard of a worry doll?
Sure, yeah, they're like children's toys.
No, not all of them.
And I did see this movie was also titled Worry Dolls. So this is a 2016 horror thriller movie. It stars a Christopher Wheel, who also was a co-writer for this movie. So The Devil's Dolls starts off with a young woman being bound in some abandoned building, and she has a symbol carved in her forehead, and she manages to get free of her shackles and escapes, only to be chased by some psycho wielding a large power drill. He chases her right into the arms of the cops, and that's where he's killed by the main character, Matt. Matt is a police detective that his marriage is falling apart, and he has a young daughter. But his wife doesn't like him anymore because he focused too much on the case of this serial killer who had this girl captured. After he kills the killer, he recovers a box full of dolls. So obviously this box of dolls is evidence, and he puts it in the back of his car for some reason. And then when he goes to visit his daughter wants to know if he brought her anything, and he just says, yeah, it's in the car, and of course the girl grabs the box of dolls. And so the mom of the daughter owns a jewelry store that sells various handcrafted jewelry items. And the daughter's at the store and decides she wants to sell these dolls to random customers. And she keeps one herself. So anyway, these dolls turn people into zombies and also makes them into psychotic killers. And yes, this happens to the girl as well.
Chloe, are you in here?
So in order to save his daughter, the cop must recover all of these dolls from the people that acquired them from the girl. And I say save or shoot them. So the things I liked about this movie is the first 5 to 10 minutes of this movie really blew me away. So when the killer chases the girl into the cops, she gets in a police car, and they had this goober looking type of guy playing a police officer, and he's trying to calm her down and telling her not to worry, you know, the area's on lockdown, and he doesn't really understand why she's so freaked out. And next thing you know, he's getting a drill through his head. So yeah, this movie does have several pretty bloody scenes in it. It is a mix of like a horror and thriller, but I don't know if you like thrillers but don't like horror. You might want to skip it because it does have some gruesome killings in it. It's not too graphic though. And I kind of like the storyline of this movie. I could see this being made into like a video game, because you could have this cop, with the story of his daughter getting these dolls, and he's got to go around to all these crazy people to retrieve the dolls in order to save his daughter. I could see a game out of this storyline. It'd be cool, I think. And one more thing I enjoyed about this movie, and I don't think it was intentionally funny, but toward the end of the movie, an old woman catches on fire, and you get to see her running around for quite a bit, and then she dives in a lake. But I mean, it just doesn't look like the old woman, because it's like some guy wearing one of those fire suits. I don't know why, it really made me laugh. So the things I didn't like about this movie is, other than the opening scene, I mean, the movie's pretty bland. It started off really strong, but it never tops the opening scene. And while I like the storyline, it was still bland, and I couldn't help but think of how they could have made this movie better. Now, the main character, who's the police detective, they never really focused too much on him struggling, with alcoholism or, his wife hating him. They only briefly mentioned these things. I think they could have added more substance to the story if they put a little more into him. And he also has a female partner who's a blonde, and I think it would have been nice if they added in some kind of romantic, sexual tension thing between these partners, but there wasn't really anything entertaining about their partnership. And I think anytime you got a story focused on cops and their partners, you really ought to try to make their relationship somewhat interesting in some way. And one more thing I think they could have changed was, I didn't really like what they did with the killer at the beginning of the movie. Like, it just looks like some average Joe. Like, it would have been maybe a little more interesting if you actually looked like a psycho in some way. I don't know. So my final thoughts on this movie is, it's okay, and like I said, I enjoyed the storyline. I just wish that they would have added more details to the characters. And I think it could have been a really good movie. So I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 10. And I would suggest it. You're not gonna see anything spectacular here, but it's worth a watch, if you need something to watch. Alright, you guys, I'll see you on the next review.